A bump on the head, chronically online parents, and the ethics of public shaming. Today we're talking about a story that has been making waves on Twitter. This all stems from a single tweet that's gotten people talking about parenting, consequences, and if some punishments are crossing the line. This is a tweet where a Twitter mother is publicly shaming their 9-year-old child for breaking the rules. My dumbass 9-year-old took a scooter to the outdoor park without permission this afternoon. He fell on his head and got a bump the size of a goose egg because he wasn't wearing his helmet. His punishment is that I'm sharing his stupid decision on social media. Quite the tweet, eh? So the child broke some rules and got hurt as a result, and instead of keeping this as a private matter, this parent decided to share it on social media as a form of punishment. And oh, trust me, the internet had some opinions about it. There was some variety in the reaction to this tweet. Some people were applauding this choice, or at least mildly supporting it, saying you do what you think is right for your kids. However, the majority of people felt like this person had crossed the line, saying that sharing a potentially embarrassing photo of her child was not an appropriate or an ethical parenting decision. And this tweet gained a lot of traction very quickly, mostly due to the people in the comments who were saying that this is a terrible thing to do. The majority of the voices in this conversation, though, seem to be saying that this one act could have potentially long-lasting effects on this child's self-esteem and mental health, as well as having other potential outcomes too. In response to this backlash, the mother doubled down on her decision. But let's look a little bit at some of the arguments that were made and some of this person's responses to it. My 9-year-old does a lot without my permission, and instead of embarrassing him online, I issue consequences that will actually get the point across to him. So the consequences I used to get the point across to him were, drumroll, a non-identifying social media post with a cropped photo of his forehead. That'll teach him. Now he is no doubt delighting in the viral photo and his ratio. He's in bed now, but he was scrolling through and reading the comments earlier and laughing. I do find it a little bit concerning that you would allow your 9-year-old child to scroll through Twitter, specifically scrolling through this thread, which is about him. Because of course there are a lot of people who took it too far, and there's a lot of very, very aggressive things being said. A lot of big words being used that perhaps a 9-year-old shouldn't be reading. But you know, maybe she made this up. Maybe the 9-year-old wasn't reading it and laughing, because in another tweet, she said that her 9-year-old cried as a result of this punishment. One person asks, how is him getting injured and cracking his skull on the ground not enough of a punishment? You know the literal consequences of his action? I bet he could use some love after that, not shame. So he didn't fracture his skull, and by the time he got home, he said it didn't hurt anymore. He didn't take the injury seriously, so he did something he would take seriously. He cried about the tweet and we talked it over. He's doing much better now. It's love. Peace. Maybe I'm wrong here. Maybe I'm seeing this completely weird, because to me, it's a bit bizarre to take pride in making your child cry. I don't understand in what scenario this is a good thing. I understand that you need to teach them consequences, and sometimes that can be hard because children are little shits and they don't want to listen to reason. You know, it's the way it works. But there are ways to teach your child about consequences and to punish them for their wrongdoings without making them cry, without making them so upset that they cry and then taking pride in that. Because of course there's times where parents will give out to their kids and the kid will cry, and it wasn't because the parent did anything over the top or screamed at them so loudly that the child got scared, but the kid just cries because it's a kid. But I don't think the parents take pride in that and boast about it, going, no, look, my method works because the child cried. Do you understand what I'm saying? Kids might cry as a result of being disciplined, but the crying is not proof that the disciplining is working, and it's not something you should be proud of. Public humiliation is not love. Do better. Sorry, didn't mean to imply the humiliation itself was love, but the act of getting through to him emotionally to get him to consider the consequences for his actions that extend beyond himself. If all he remembers is to wear a helmet, then so be it. So again, she seems to think that getting through to him emotionally to understand consequences means making him cry. So does that mean anytime that your child does something wrong, you have to make sure that they cry to know that they understand that they've done something wrong? I doubt it. So this is a weird argument. At least he's got a kind, supportive parent. Sometimes you gotta be cruel to be kind. I'd rather he learnt this lesson now than his friends dare him to do a social media challenge at 14 years old. I'm really confused why that's related. I'm sure there was a train of thought going on in her head that I'm not following. I am not on that train, but I'm sure there was a train. No, actually, you never have to be cruel to be kind. In other replies, you talk of disobedience problems, so obviously something more is going on here. Maybe try to find the source of the problem. Glad the kid is okay. We're glad too. I was so relieved and angry with him when he came back with a big bump. He can be so careless sometimes. Anyway, we've decided I'm gonna let him delete the post himself in a few days once things have quieted down and I've finished reporting the creeps. Like that person said, you don't need to be cruel to be kind. That is a bizarre take. But later on she did correct herself and say she shouldn't have said that, she didn't mean it. I'm not sure why she said it in the first place if she didn't mean it, but I'm just gonna have to take her word for it. So let's just sum it up a little bit. This mother shared a photo of her 9-year-old child's forehead as a punishment. It made her child cry, and she considers that a good thing because it's teaching him about consequences. Am I insane for thinking that that's not really alright? Clearly it's not the same as, I don't know, a belt, right? It's not that bad. But there seems to be something just a little bit wrong here, and a lot of people seem to agree with me. But instead of considering how this may not have been okay, this person seems to have just doubled down. Still, I want to take a step back for a second and I want to have a look at the bigger picture. How have parenting and disciplining techniques evolved over time? And where does public shaming come into that? Well, parenting has always been a difficult task, as you can assume, because like I said earlier, children are little shits. And the methods used to discipline children have varied greatly over the years. For example, for a long time, spanking was really common. However, as time went on, our views as a society about what is right and what is wrong changed a little bit, and our understanding of child psychology improved too. And as such, new disciplining techniques developed. Many parents began to take a more nurturing and communicative role, focusing on reinforcing positive behaviours and using logical consequences for negative actions. And maybe some people think that for some negative actions, shaming is that logical consequence. Because of course public shaming is not something new. Years ago, people who committed offences may have been put in the stocks or pillory in the town square to be laughed at and jeered and have things thrown at their heads. But these practices eventually fell out of favour, with people realising that they just did more harm than good. But public shaming has seen a resurgence recently in the digital age, with social media giving people a new platform to expose and criticise others' misdeeds. And perhaps there is a place for that when somebody has done something terribly wrong, but can we say that it's okay to do that to a child? Is this a valid way to teach kids about the consequences of their actions? Or is it a harmful practice that could leave long-lasting scars? Because there are several ethical issues that we need to consider when looking at this phenomenon. Firstly, let's consider the issue of privacy. When a parent posts a photo or shares a video of their child's misbehaviour online, they're essentially broadcasting it to the whole world. In this case, this mother shared a picture of her child online on Twitter without the kid's consent, which raises questions about whether this is an invasion of privacy. And we know that she did this without consent because she says so herself, and she even said that the child cried as a result. And this raises questions about whether this is an invasion of privacy. Goodman and Cook even shared an article in the Journal of Theory and Research in Education titled "Shaming School Children: A Violation of Fundamental Rights." Children in school are often shamed, at times intentionally, sometimes inadvertently. The question we pose is whether this practice violates their fundamental human rights, in particular, that of freedom. And although this doesn't mean that every single parent who shares their child online should be jailed for human rights violations, it is fair to ask whether it's okay to expose a child's personal life online, potentially to millions of people, without giving them a say in the matter. Plus, sharing a photo of your child online and publicly shaming them opens up the doors to them being harassed and mocked. And if that child was then given the freedom to scroll through these tweets and replies, that could affect them mentally. There are discipline methods that help children to learn the consequences of their actions and help them learn from their mistakes, such as timeouts or taking away certain privileges. And although these won't work for every child, there are some variations that you can try and things that you can implement in order to make this more effective. But online shaming seems to be more about publicly humiliating the child than about fostering growth. And although some people might argue that, yeah, public humiliation will stop this child from making the same mistake again, other people would argue that it could damage their self-esteem and even potentially hinder their emotional development. Public shaming, especially in the age of social media, can be a deeply humiliating experience. The child could feel exposed and vulnerable, and it could lead to deeply negative emotions that are really hard for a child whose brain is not fully developed yet to process. And another really important consequence that we haven't even looked at yet is that this could even erode the relationship between a child and a parent. It could make the child distrust their own mother or father. They could feel betrayed and hurt, and it may take a long time for this trust to be rebuilt, which can have its own series of behavioural and mental consequences. So even if it deters the child from doing that one same mistake again, they may make other mistakes because they don't trust their own parent. And moving on from this, it's not only the child themselves who can be affected by this kind of public form of punishment. When you post stuff like this, you're inviting strangers into your personal life. This can lead to backlash for the entire family. Bringing it back to the original tweet, this happened pretty much immediately because the original poster said that they were getting harassed for the tweet that they made, and that they even got doxxed as well. And these two things are never okay. It is absolutely never okay to harass or dox somebody online. And it's a consequence that unfortunately happened because of this tweet. But now I kind of want to just look a little bit more at why. Why was this the method that this mother chose? You could argue that posting your child online as punishment is just extremely immature. And not only that, it could also be seen as seeking validation from strangers online, which is something that we all see on the daily now. Constantly there, just people looking for validation online from strangers. It's weird and bizarre, but it's not stopping anytime soon. And it doesn't stop just because somebody's a parent. Online engagement, likes, comments, retweets, they all do something to your brain chemistry. And it can be addictive, even if the majority of interactions that you're having online are negative. And again, that doesn't change just because you're a parent. Your brain's still going to do the same thing. But is chasing after a chemical in your brain an excuse for behavior like this? I would say no. You're responsible for yourself and for your own actions, and there is a time and a place for everything. And when it comes to disciplining a child, I do not think that the internet is that place. We all need to know less about each other, and sometimes it's good to know when you can keep things a private matter. And in an era where we're all constantly connected, some people need to learn the art of logging off. Because for real, some of you need to get off social media, I swear to God. But although I feel, and a lot of other people feel, like this was not an okay thing to do, that it's not okay to publicly shame your child as a punishment, it is important to remember that we are all human beings and we all make mistakes. Hopefully this child really did take it okay and moved on and there are no long-lasting consequences. But it is okay to criticize when you think something is wrong. However, when we criticize, we need to be empathetic about it, and we need to do so in a way that fosters personal growth and does not just spark arguments. Criticize, but kindly, instead of perpetuating a cycle of humiliation and retaliation. Which brings me to the comments that I know that I'm going to get in this video, and there'll be several different variations and probably ones that I can't predict. Some of them will be things like, you can't tell other people how to parent, and you know what? You're right, I can't, but I can still criticize it when I think that it's wrong. And again, a lot of people agree. Am I gonna go bang on this woman's door and demand that she stop her ways and she is evil and a terrible mother? No, I think this one action was wrong, but I don't claim to know about the rest of her parenting style. And the other form of comment that I'm gonna get is, back in my day, my parents used to dangle me from my ankles outside my window so that I would be scared that I was going to die, and then I never did anything wrong ever again. To which I say, you probably need therapy. Go to therapy. Please. Navigating parenting in the digital age is undoubtedly a complex challenge, and as parents try to find more effective ways to teach their children about consequences, it is essential to consider how these methods may affect the child's well-being. Though not always, some methods may have long-term negative effects on the child, so it's important to know when to take a step back and just not post it. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope you liked it. Please let me know in the comments what you think about everything we talked about today. And of course, while you're down there, please subscribe. It really, really helps me out if you subscribe. So thank you so much. Please do that. I'm gonna keep asking until you do it. Do it, thank you, and turn on notifications as well. Like, comment, share, follow me on social media. I am VangelinaSkov everywhere. And most importantly, I hope you have an absolutely wonderful day. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.